You're listening to the Mermaid Podcast here on WPOD-FM, Mermaid Radio. I'm Gary Guppy, and we hope you enjoy today's program.
Welcome to the Mermaid Podcast, where we dive deep into the magical world of mermaiding and all things aquatic. I'm your host, Mura Shira, and these are my co-hosts, Sierra Mermaid and the merman who couldn't think of a good couch gag for this episode, Merman Nathaniel.
Whether you're a seasoned performer, hobbyist, or curious adventure seeker, this is the place for you. We'll be highlighting our fantastic community and what we're all about, making magic and living out our best mermaid dreams.
Today, we'll be exploring our more business-savvy side. So please, grab your tails and get ready to make a splash. Don't forget to follow us on TikTok and Blue Sky at The Mermaid Podcast, and join the pod on Discord to connect with our community, link in the description below. If you like what we do, please consider donating to our Ko-fi page to help us continue the podcast. Without further ado, let's dive in.
Welcome back, everyone. It's great to be back here yapping about mermaids, and it's time to get down to business, if you know what I mean. Right, guys?
Oh,
Yeah.
Absolutely. I'm ready to defeat the Huns.
Nate almost
Sorry,
died.
I had to.
All right, we're going to be talking about all the different kinds of mermaid businesses that are in the community. And boy, are there a bunch of opportunities to start businesses in this community, in this hobby.
Oh, absolutely. I feel like this hobby and the businesses around it, it's one that is so easy to just get your fins into and really try it out because people are forgiving. People understand that artistry takes time and they're more than willing, even if you're a newbie, to pay what you're worth. I feel in a lot of instances. I think that this hobby is unique in that sense.
Yeah, I gotta agree. I feel like this community is definitely, one of the more artistic friendly out of the bunch. Very artistic friendly, very, small business friendly, as we'll no doubt go into later in a little bit.
There's for sure a lot of support out there for all the different kinds of entrepreneurship that is fostered in the community. There's just so many different ways you can get into it, and then there's so many different ways you can support your fellow merfolk that are in the business realm of mermaiding. I just feel like there's a lot, it's so vast, even if you don't have much of a budget or you have a huge budget, there's always ways that you can support small businesses and local artists, even just by maybe leaving a tip in the mermaid tank that's at your local Ren Fair, or ordering a small piece of jewelry online from Etsy mermaid jewelry maker. There's just so many things you can do.
What are some examples of different types of mermaid businesses, Ash?
So I think, first of all, we got to talk about the obvious. We got to talk about the tail makers, man. I mean, they're putting their heart and soul into these works of art.
Absolutely.
There's definitely a artistry developing a good tail, I would say. There's a reason we always talk about the Mer Taylor and Merbellas and all those kinds of people because, oh my goodness, they do magnificent work.
They've for sure honed their craft, and I think we're seeing a lot of people who are getting into either tail making or tail design with artists that get commissioned to make tail design on templates for different tail makers, and just different ways for the tail makers themselves that are putting together the physical tail and the artists that are coming up with these designs to collaborate in more of a business way,
I love seeing the collaborations, and it's another unique thing about the businesses in the mermaid community is not only that there's so many that we can support, and it's not easy, but there's more forgiveness in a sense if you do start a business. But also you can tell that these businesses genuinely get along and uplift and support each other, and I think that makes those collaborations that much more worthwhile to the consumer.
Yeah, it's interesting you mentioned that because in the past, decade and a half that I remember being in this community, I don't really remember there being any sort of like drama or bad blood between any two tail makers at all. There's definitely like a nice, like friendly competition kind of vibe in that field, which I think is really nice. There's just so many different varieties out there, not just design wise, but make and model wise. It really is just down to like your own personal preference, like what you are looking for in a mermaid tail.
I think friendly competition is a good way to put it, because I haven't been part of the community nearly as long as you guys probably have, but I really haven't seen a lot of nastiness between different tail makers. In fact, I've seen the opposite. I mean, the, most famous collaboration that we have to date so far has been Finfolk and Merbella, of course, with Bella providing the designs for the Finbella fabric tails. And just seeing how that has it seems to be, on the outside looking in, it seems to have been a symbiotic, uplifting sort of business relationship. And I think it's really rare to have a community where you can have businesses not be in direct competition with each other. And even if you talk to people in the community who are the consumers, some people will have like their favorite tail makers or whatever, but I mean, I really can't say anything bad about most tail makers, aside from, the occasional, they didn't deliver on a tail or whatever. But I really can't. I love FinFun, I love Finfolk, I love Mertailor, I love all the silicone tail artists, the smaller ones, Nation, all those things. I don't think there's a community like that where you can say that almost around the board for all the businesses that are in there, big and small.
Oh, absolutely. And I know that there is one who there's only been one that I've really seen that kind of contradicts that, and I won't name the business because I know from what I've heard anyway that they are working on it. But they had gotten just a tad bit of popularity with the newer Mers who didn't really know any better and would buy tails that were copies of other makers. And even then, I would see healthy criticism, and these makers have been like, you know what, yeah, you're right, this is a disservice to not only our consumers, but to ourselves, and we should, moving forward, design our own. Like, even the disagreements are so mature and thought out, and it almost makes you want to do a head nod even to the ones who have messed up and admit it.
There's definitely there's a level of maturity and civility that you don't typically see like in this kind of field. It comes to like costuming and whatnot.
I think this goes back to what you were saying, how the community itself is very forgiving of the entrepreneurs in the community, because we get it. It's hard. Sometimes you get, lost, maybe cutting corners somewhere. But I think as long as you're able to take that criticism to heart and really do something to change how you're doing things, I think the community is always willing to take them back. And speaking of collaborations between tail makers and others, we also have within our community, we have our artists, we have our visionaries that help bring people's mersonas to life, whether it's creating art for tail templates or creating art of people's mersonas that they can live vicariously through, make little profile pictures, business branding, whatever.
Shout out to all of the people so far that, and even in the future, that we have had featured for cover art. We are so grateful for all of you and your talents, and we love you guys so much.
You guys are great.
Yes, we have had so many fantastic artists make art for this podcast. And of course, this is a community-run podcast, so they're just doing it out of the goodness of their hearts. And we are so happy to be there for them to try to get their talents out and known.
Not just for our podcast, but also in Discord server itself. We're always seeing people just like uploading and sharing their own art and sharing their own commission prices and whatnot. And it's always nice and heartwarming to see someone in the server get really excited for a commission they spent like really good money on. I especially have had that dopamine rush a few times myself. There's nothing better than paying a good price for some good art and then, waiting a little bit and getting that piece after a short while.
They really have a way of just putting exactly what you're envisioning in your head, imagining, onto whether it be paper or a digital format, and it is so amazing to see. I completely understand what you're saying.
And on top of that, we have, of course, our professional mermaids and mermen within the community. We have take divers, aquarium mermaids, we have party mermaids, festival mermaids, convention mermaids. I mean, there's just so many things you can do in real life, traveling, being a performer.
Absolutely.
It's such a very like performative art by nature, like just right off the bat.
Oh, absolutely. But they truly go above and beyond with their training and party insurance, big time. And just being able to put themselves out there in that way, because it can be scary to be perceived by the public. So kudos to them.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
It is absolutely horrifying to be perceived by the public, so they earn their dime for sure.
Oh,
It's
yeah.
definitely a field you have to have like thick skin going into because you are going to be getting a lot of like unnecessary comments thrown at you, which, that's something we'll discuss in the interview a little bit later on. But yeah, no, like mad respect to anybody who's willing to make like a good professional dime off this sort of performative artistry.
Absolutely. And you mentioned specifically that it is performative, and I think that's another piece of it, is you genuinely just have to be able to have multiple tracks going in your mind for something like that. You need to be working on your breath holding and how do I look and how am I acting. There's so many pieces to the performing puzzle, and I just love to see that as well, that acting and the artistry at the same time, and the exercise of it and the danger art. It's just all of these big words.
The acting especially, I think, is the most prevalent because the whole idea is you gotta really sell people on the idea that, like, you are a real mermaid, you are a real merman, especially if there are kids around because, you don't want to break that illusion for anybody.
Yes,
So
you need to be able to improv.
Yeah, yeah, and so it's kind of amazing to see these performers just like having to deal with things like pool chlorine and stinging eyes and God knows what else, and
Sinus
still
infections like crazy.
sinus infections. Yeah, just having to deal with all of that and still like putting on a happy face and selling people on the idea of, oh, a majestic, happy-go-lucky mermaid who was just plucked from the ocean and brought to this pool to perform just for everybody there. It's almost like professional wrestling in a way. Like,
Oh, absolutely. And with the
I suppose that's
performing itself, I've seen performers with so many bruises just trying to like hold themselves in place against a tank. Oh,
Oh, yeah.
it's work.
it is work.
You low-key gotta be swole to be a professional mermaid. I mean, like, the core strength you gotta have and the upper arm
yeah.
strength of dragging yourself out of, especially if you're a tank mermaid. I mean, you gotta drag. I've seen clips, I think, of Haley Mermaid where she's like lifting herself. She's wearing, the silicone tail, and she's lifting herself out of the tank by her arms because, you don't want to scrape that expensive silicone tail you spent so much money on.
I've seen Mermaid Serenity doing pull-ups, and she'd be like, yeah, this tail is 40 pounds, and she's just going.
Right.
Oh, I wish.
And if you don't want to be on that side of real life mermaiding as a job, there's always the mermaid trainers. I mean, where do you think these professional mermaids got their skill from? There's becoming a PADI instructor, and you can open, there's people who have opened their own mermaid schools out there.
Oh yeah, I've definitely seen at least one or two different mermaid schools myself.
Oh, yeah, and it's becoming more and more accessible. I know even 2 years ago, if I wanted to get my Patty Mermaid completion, oh my gosh, let me try again. I'm so sorry. And I know that if I wanted to get my Patty Mermaid certification even 2 years ago, I had to drive over 3 hours away. And I actually just looked it up a few days ago, just out of pure curiosity. And now suddenly there's one an hour away. So it's kind of crazy how fast that piece has spread. And it's really a great thing because it is about safety.
Right.
No dead mermaids, as we say.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
No dead mermaids.
It's okay. And then we have arguably our most accessible way to kind of put your foot in the door of maybe you want to do a mermaiding business, maybe you don't, you want to try it out, is accessory making. Because this is so general, you can do so much with it, and I've seen people do so much with it. There's so many different places you can sell. I mean, like your typical sites like Etsy, they sell on Facebook, via word of mouth, your own website, and making all sorts of different stuff.
Yeah, different
Absolutely.
props, different jewelry, tops, all sorts of things. All very like thematically appropriate stuff too, because like even stuff like goggles and even weight belts, I've seen people try to incorporate some mermaid aesthetic to, or some like ocean aesthetic to them, as to not stand out too much, not break that whole illusion.
And I feel like the accessory portion is such a vast market that anybody can find something in their price range or something that they can at least save up for. Like it's an achievable goal.
Absolutely. Personally, like I'm very much a big fan of the different props and tops people make. I've seen people get like really creative with some tops out there. You know, I've seen, you've seen like the generic, all the typical ones, the starfish tops, the shell tops. Then you'd see ones where they would incorporate netting and kelp as well. I've seen some other kind of top that incorporate things like turtle shells and some that makes it look like you're wearing like a couple of octopuses on your and even like crowns too. Like I've seen some pretty creative takes on crowns that look like they're made out of like coral and such.
I have one mermaid crown actually, and I looked and I've worn it so much that I've rubbed the artist right off, and I could not find my old receipt. And she sold this crown to me for, I think it was about 150, and the artistry was so amazing that I told her, I was like, girl, I feel like I am robbing you right now. This is beautiful.
I think that my favorite part of the different accessory makers that are in the mermaiding community, I love going through and trying to find someone who's just creating something so outlandish and usually these things end up being very popular and it ends up spreading like wildfire, and then everyone's got their own design. I remember seeing different artists' takes on like wearable and swimmable like ear fins. And just the different
Yes.
ways you can make that and make it like your own signature look. I've just seen so many different ways to do it. I've seen silicone ones. I've seen like translucent ones. They're so cool. And it's like those and the webbing gloves with
The webbed
Yeah,
fingers,
the webbed
yeah.
fingers. Just different ways. I mean, it doesn't even have to be huge. It just has to be like, it's just something that will enhance someone's costume design, or even if it's everyday wear. I mean, I know a lot of makers have everyday mermaid wear. The tail makers will sell leggings in the tail prints that they have, and jewelry makers, of course, you can wear jewelry on land or in the sea, so that helps.
I think I mentioned
Absolutely.
this. This community is obviously a very expressive community. Not just people who are expressing themselves through the art that they make, but also people expressing themselves through getting comfortable with these accessories and whatnot that people are making for them. A couple months ago, we interviewed Mermaya, and she based her persona off of a clownfish, and it's just so cool that somebody can be able to express themselves through that whole aesthetic.
Absolutely. I feel like the accessories has to be one of my favorite parts because there's so many options of just everything to choose from. And like Murashira said, you can wear them even when you're out of the tail. I love it when my friends or my coworkers or strangers come up to me and they're like, "You look very mermaidy today."
I mean, just talking about all this is just looking back and just looking on how welcoming and how creative our community is. And it's literally just because we all want to be mermaids.
It
Yeah.
is.
And,
There's such a kindness to it, and it's just a shared love that I feel like a lot of communities don't express the way that mermaids do.
and there's so much variety out there as well that I feel like literally anybody coming into this community can find like something they can use to express themselves. There's so much different variety in tails and tops and accessories and what have you that I feel like it'd be harder to not make your own ideal mermaid look.
Your own mermaid look and your own mermaid life. From artists to professional mermaids, accessory makers, tail makers, we have it all, and we are whimsical as hell when we do it.
Absolutely. In or out of the water, in or out of the tails, there's something for you.
When we come back, we're going to be talking to a professional mermaid and discuss how she runs her mermaid business. So stick around. You're listening to WPOD FM Mermaid Radio. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors. Lost your voice in a tight contract? We'll be your voice in court.
Hi, I'm Danny Lowe, and for over 35 years, I've represented the greater North Atlantic area in many different cases of sea witch fraud, including faulty contracts, unfair conditions, and unlawful transformations.
I went to a sea witch out of desperation for a better life, but the contract terms were completely outrageous, and I just wasn't sure I could get out of it. But thanks to Mr. Lowell, I got my life back, and I was able to recoup my costs.
If you or a loved one is caught up in a contract they can't break, don't hesitate. Pick up your cell phones and call 555-2983 today.
Every morning in the tropics is a special morning, and every special morning deserves a special breakfast. Introducing new Aqua Crisp cereal from Sifco, with toasted oats, diced pineapples, and strawberries. Each spoonful promises a taste of the tropics in every bite. Treat yourself to a special morning with Aqua Crisps. Hey, welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We've got a special guest with us here today from my neck of the woods, here to discuss her mermaid business. So please help me welcome Katfish Mermaid. Katfish, how are you doing today?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing pretty well. So before we begin, why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself? What got you into professional mermaiding?
Well, I am, fortunately or unfortunately, however you see it, I'm a millennial. So I grew up in the era of Splash and The Little Mermaid. So mermaid swimming in the pool was kind of my default. So I was just that era, and then a little bit later along came Aquamarine and H2O and all those sorts of things. So that was just kind of my neck of the woods kind of growing up.
And I take it those eventually got you into... How did you find out about professional mermaiding exactly? Like, where did you get your first tail and whatnot?
Professional mermaiding for me was something I kind of stumbled across on the internet, the wonders of the early days of Tumblr and MySpace, and I was like, oh my gosh, these people are doing something that I really would want to do. And I just kind of started following some of the early tail makers and ended up just taking a deep dive, so to speak, and just kind of living in that section of the internet whenever I was online. And I ended up getting really sick my senior year of college and had some kind of life-altering experiences with that. And after I scrambled to finish that last semester of college, I got my degree and then went, I don't know what I want to do with my life. Maybe I'll try a few things, including being a fish. for real. And that's kind of where everything just took off.
Excellent. How did you start your mermaid business exactly? How did you go about doing that? What would you say are some things people need to consider if they want to make their own?
When you're going to start a business, any sort of business, you want to have a plan in mind. And that was the first thing I did, is when I realized I was really serious about it and it wasn't just kind of one of those things I was like, maybe that'd be fun. I kind of sat down and made a plan for what I thought would work. And then my next step was the money aspect. I got a small loan so that I could do a down payment on a tail. And then in the in-between time of when I did the down payment on the tail and then when I received my tail, which was a year just about, I did all sorts of research on possible venues and clients that I could be working with. I started making and decorating my own tops and accessories. I started my social media pages based around the name Catfish that I wanted to use. At first it was mostly just about like the accessories and stuff I was making, and just to kind of start the pages and get them going. And so I had that name being used, but I used that year to kind of decide on what I was going to be doing, what my colors were going to be, what my focus as a mermaid was going to be, start working on my backstory, assuming that I was going to be working with kids and adults, like think about where I was going to go with my all of the different ideas I had in my head. But the main things to consider: are you really dedicated to the business? Are you going to be able to support yourself monetarily? And can you make a plan and stick to it?
Very good answer. I like that. So, obviously we know being a professional mermaid is a very niche business. What sort of hardships did you have to endure when you were just starting out?
One of the main things really is finding the gigs. It's a lot of like cold call kind of feel, which is not super comfortable.
Just trying to get your name out there, yeah.
Yeah. For me, I did a lot of emails because calling people already get cold calls and telemarketers, so I felt like that wasn't really going to get me anywhere. So my main thing was like cold contact emails and also going physically to places like libraries and museums and stuff. But emails are really what worked really well for me. And then once I physically had my tail, I did a photo shoot with a photographer that I knew from modeling previously. I've worked with her a bunch of times, so she and I have a good rapport. And when I contacted her, she was like, I will absolutely do this with you. Yes, please. I had business cards made immediately and I started leaving them everywhere. And I still do that. That's one of the main things that I do. If my business comes up in a conversation or we go to a restaurant, like my cards are left everywhere that I go, because even still now, it's been 10 years, gigs are still like, you want to constantly be putting your name out there, because gigs can still be hard to find, or you have one hard year and then everybody kind of forgets about you, right? But the other thing is, when you first start out, you're not totally sure about yourself, like you're new, and when it's your business, it's a little bit rougher, so you have to get people to take you seriously too, and that can be hard because you'll straight up just get ignored, or you will have people actually laugh in your face, and both of those things can be really hard to deal with when you're first starting. Now it's like, all right, whatever, they're just not a good fit. And it took a little while for me to deal with that. But at first it was like, man, why don't they want, this is such a cool idea. Why don't they want a mermaid? I'm so cool. This is so fun. And now I'm just like, all right, well, sucks to suck. They don't want this cool thing at their event. On to the next thing. It's a little bit easier now. And at first it was like, well, that was really rude of them. They didn't have to laugh in my face and tell me that I'm stupid. Because that has happened to me. That happened then, and every once in a while it still happens now. Not as much now, but you have to have a thick skin and scales.
Thick scales, yeah. I imagine you work with all sorts of different clients here. And what kind of clients typically hire you exactly? Which ones do you enjoy the most?
I have been lucky enough to get all sorts of clients. The majority have been kids' parties, But I've done everything from festivals and art shows to museums, corporate events, charity events, to weddings and library story times.
Weddings?
So
Okay.
Yeah, weddings. There was a really cool wedding. They had an entire pirate-themed wedding, and they
No
wanted the
kidding.
mermaid there. Yes, they wanted me there for their pre-wedding. Like, everything was, their guests were getting ready, and then they had me hang out. I got to watch their whole ceremony, and then during cocktail hour, I hung out too to entertain their guests. So I was there for like hours, just hanging out with them and their guests, and it was amazing.
That is so cool.
But like, we've got so many festivals around here. Even though we're not near the ocean, we're near the Great Lakes and the Finger Lakes, and so there are a lot of really cool festivals and museums and stuff. But I get to do so many different things that it's kind of hard to just pick one, because you interact with so many different groups of people that it's just hysterical. And like, I'll do all adult events, and then I'll do all kid events, and then I'll do family events, and oh gosh, it's a lot of fun to get the mix of types of people and their reactions, because some kids are like, yeah, whatever, okay, bye, and other kids are like, this is the best day of my life. But then I'll also get adults that react that way, and it's the funniest thing. They're like, this is so cool. I've never met a mermaid. This is the best. You have the coolest job. I want to be you when I grow up, and I'm 30 years older than you. This is amazing. And then I get other adults that are like, you're going to sit here all day, and they paid you to do this? And I'm like, I mean, it's more than just sitting here, but yeah. Yep. Are you having a nice day, though? And they're like, yeah, I guess. Bye. And I'm like, all right, see ya.
A great conversation starter.
Yep. And that's a lot of times for the adults only events, that's basically what they're looking for, is like a conversation starter, a photo op. And then I end up meeting some really fun people. So it's really cool to get run the full gambit of different types of events.
Now, earlier you mentioned that you had to kind of plan a backstory or your persona. Tell us a little bit about that. How much of that do you like improvise while on the job?
So I try not to improvise too much, because I know that I'm probably going to run into some of the same kids over and over again. So I want to make sure that I'm as consistent as possible. So my persona is basically just me with a more complicated backstory, if that makes sense. For example, my backstory as to why I'm a mermaid, I'm part mermaid. So for little kids, my backstory is that my grandma was Ariel's mom's sister, and she pulled an Ariel and ran away, and nobody knew where she went. And because she wasn't part of the royal family, everybody just kind of went, meh, whatever. She's fine. She's a grown-up. She can do what she wants. But she pulled an Ariel and she ran away, and she became a human, and she married my grandpa, who's a human.
That's very
And
cute.
that's how I ended up as a human. And that's why people are like, but you look like Ariel. And I'm like, that's because we're cousins. Isn't that cool? So I have this backstory that I use. And they'll be like, well, why does your tail feel like this? And I have these like little bits and pieces. And the other thing about your persona is you never want to like disparage other mermaids with your persona, or talk about how other mermaids aren't real mermaids. So that's the thing, is that we have all different types of mermaids, just like we have all different types of fish in the ocean. So other mermaids' tails are going to feel different, just like other fish feel different. And because like you'll have the mermaids with full silicone tails, you'll have fabric tails, you'll have the plastic or acrylic scale tails, you'll have the silicone tails that are smooth, you'll have all these different things. And you don't want kids to be like, well, I met this other real mermaid, so you're not a real mermaid. You don't want to ruin the magic for them as a kid or for other mermaids. And so I have to have these explanations for things that are consistent without just making it up on the spot. But at the same time, you have to have answers for weird questions from little kids. I straight up got asked why I had freckles the other day. even though I'm a fish. And I'm like, but I'm a part human and humans have freckles. And they're like, but you're a fish though. And I'm like, fish can have freckles. Which is true. Fish can have freckles.
Oh
I
my
double
God.
checked. I looked it up later. I knew that was true and then I had questioned myself about it later. We looked it up later. It is true. Fish can get freckles. But like, I try to mix the science and the fantasy and make it as realistic but fun as possible. And be like cute and fun with the kids as much as I can. And then I try to still stay in character for the adults, but I'm a little more snarky with the adults.
Very nice. Very nice. Very educational, too. How busy does your job typically get? What does a good work season look like for you?
Usually, unfortunately, I'm not as busy as some mermaids you'll run across because we do have full winter here. I'm not going to be crazy busy year round. The beginning of my career, the first 4 or 5 years, I had a joke of no gig November because I just wasn't getting gigs in November and December because it was cold and there were so many holidays. So nobody was looking to hire a mermaid. Since probably 2021, I've been getting sporadic gigs in those months. So I don't get to say no gig November anymore, but I get a lot of gigs right in the beginning of the year, in February and March, and then nothing in like April and May. And then June, July, August is crazy. Nothing in September, because it's like school starts and everybody is frazzled. October is usually busy because of Halloween. And then like November, December, January is I'll maybe get 1 gig a month. So I'm not super duper busy, but I usually have at least 1 gig a month at this point because I've been so established. But you're always going to get those years that are really kind of slow. Like 2020 was really bad.
Ugh.
2021 was kind of meh. And this year has been pretty slow comparatively. It's picked up a little bit, but comparatively this year has been slow with all the things going on. So
As a professional mermaid, obviously, things don't always go smoothly on the job. In particular, you can get some rather problematic clientele, rowdy kids, adults who just do not know how to, they don't know boundaries lightly. How would you normally deal with people like that on the job? Like really unruly clientele?
that's a good question. I'm sure everybody has different ways of dealing with that as a performer or as a mermaid just in general. My first bit of advice is always have a mermaid wrangler with you. Or if you can't have your own personal wrangler with you, make sure that there are other like adult humans present, lifeguards, the parents of kids, if it's not a kids event, that there's security there. Confirm everything before you go to the gig. Whether you're a new mermaid, whether you've been doing it for years, don't do stuff alone. Or if there's not enough time to plan for it, make sure people know where you're going, like normal things like that. With kids, it kind of depends on the age. If you've got the younger kids, usually it's a little bit easier to just kind of, yeah, we're not going to do that with the mermaid. That's not nice. It's easier to swim away or no, just take. I actually got a 3-year-old at a party recently just got possessed and she whacked me over the head as hard as she could, which again, she was 3. It wasn't very hard. I am unharmed. With a pool noodle. Just whacked me over the head as hard as she could with a pool noodle. And I was like, no, we don't hit people. That's not nice. And I just took the noodle from her and set it aside. Luckily, her parents were also paying attention. And the kid just was like, whoop, scooped out of the pool. And she was like, nope, we're done with the pool now. We don't hit people and you know that. And I was like, oh, a parent who's paying attention. This is great. But also at the same time, like, she was 3. She didn't hit me very hard. I took care of it. It was fine. But at the same time, you get some older kids who get to that point where, like, they're questioning everything, including who's in charge and if they're willing to be nice to people, and it's a little bit harder to deal with. And if they're getting rowdy and they're hanging on you and they're poking at you and they're asking you questions, and it's, we're not doing that. You don't let people stomp on your feet. You can't stomp on my tail. You don't come up and yell in people's faces because you don't want people yelling in your face. We don't do that. And if it's getting out of control, that's when you either have the mermaid wrangler step in, or you make sure that the mermaid wrangler, because you're stuck, whether you're in a pool or you're in a chair in your fins, you're kind of stuck wherever you are. And that's why you have your mermaid wrangler or whoever's there kind of keeping an eye. And you have them go get whoever's, whether it's that kid's parent, whether it's a lifeguard, whether it's, whoever's the coordinator, be like, hey, we need whoever's in charge of this kid to step in. We need this kid taken away. We need redirection of some kind because they're just not behaving correctly. Adults, if there's kids around, I try to stay in character to not ruin it for the kids. And I'm like, I don't think that's a good question for the mermaid, or, sometimes I will straight up ignore adults that ask inappropriate questions in front of kids. Or you get the adults that, well, what is your tail made of? In front of a group of small children, I'll be like, magic and fish guts. Or, just magic and fish scales. My eyes really big and nod, and they'll be like, uh-huh. And someone will be like, oh, so sorry. It's like their situational awareness was temporarily gone, and they're like, oh my god, I'm so sorry. And other people are like, no, really, what is it? And I'm like, magic. And fish. I have bones in there still. What are you looking for? I try to stay in character if there's kids around. But if there's no kids around and they're being inappropriate, I first try to kind of call them out nicely, because I am still being paid to be there. I am an entertainer. So I am, I'm kind of nice about it. I'm like, I don't know if that's appropriate, or maybe we just, I don't know about that. What does your wife think? Or, just kind of make it funny. But if it gets really obnoxious and we're kind of easing into mervert waters, that's when you kind of just have to either straight up call them out or start flat out giving them the cold shoulder, ignoring them. Or that's when you, again, grab your mermaid wrangler or security and be like, this person needs to leave immediately. And the other thing that I always do is, in my documentation for all of my clients, I have written in my documentation that if I am being verbally or physically abused and I have requested that it be addressed and it has not been, I have the right to leave with full payment because they refuse to address abusive behavior. Because I'm literally stuck there. I can't get up and walk away. I can't physically move myself. I have to have other people move me. So it's really dangerous and uncomfortable for everyone involved if I'm getting stomped on by a bunch of children, if I'm getting multiple drunk dads asking me why the mermaid isn't wearing a top, if I've got an abusive old grandpa yelling at me for painting little boys' nails. It's just, there's a lot that can go very wrong very quickly. And so it's very important that you stay safe when you're performing, whether it's as a mermaid or any other type of performer.
Absolutely. So, as we have established already, starting a mermaid business is not exactly the easiest thing to get up off the ground, or the seabed, rather. Haha. So, what is some advice that you would give to somebody who wants to start their own mermaid business that you wish you would have learned when you started?
Have a lube budget.
A
If
lube
you're gonna
budget?
have a silicone tail. In all seriousness, it's a lot of fun, but it's not just sparkles and tail flips. It's so much fun, but it is kind of hard. It's a lot of those emails and calls. It's a lot of lube if you're gonna have a silicone tail. You gotta take care of all of your gear. You gotta store all of your gear. You gotta manage your time. You gotta manage whether you're hiring your wranglers or you're paying them with acts of service and food. hey, you helped me with this, I'm going to help you move next weekend kind of thing. You got to figure out what your business model is. You have to make sure you're ready for the business side of it if you want it to be a business. And that's not a threat, it's a reality check. Because mermaiding is awesome and it's fun and it's a workout and it's a fantasy and it's amazing. But it's hard. And like, I have a tax guy that I go to do my taxes every year, and I give him a printout of all of my receipts of everything that I've purchased everywhere that I go, and he at this point doesn't really have any questions because again, it's been 10 years of me doing this. But like, you have to make sure you're ready for it, and if you are, that's great. If you're not, that's also okay, because you can learn on the job. But you have to be ready to admit when you need help or when you need to change what you're doing or adjust how you're doing something, because sometimes it's not going to go exactly how you want it to go. And that can be really frustrating, but that can also be a chance to learn and grow. Or it might be a chance to be like, okay, maybe the business side is not for me. Maybe I need a business manager and I need to not be the one running the business. I'm just the person who gets sent out on jobs. But it really is as much work as it is and as hard as it can be sometimes, especially if you're someone who, like me, has a couple different chronic issues. It can be really hard some days to get the fin on and get in the water, and then getting back out of the water and laying there and being like, I'm gonna die. But it's so much fun and it's so worth it every time. That getting on my computer and doing all of those emails and making those invoices, the pain in the butt that it is, it's worth it every single time. And you have to measure whether or not it is worth it for you. And if it's not, that's okay. You don't have to be a professional mermaid. You can just be a beautiful hobby mermaid. And that is okay. Not everyone can be a business mermaid. And I unfortunately can't only be a business mermaid. Most of my mermaid career has been part-time mermaid, part-time real estate agent, part-time mermaid, part-time office work, part-time mermaid, part-time working in a clothing store. Like, I've never been full-time only mermaid, because it's just not, it doesn't work where we are. I'm not by the ocean, I'm not by casinos, it doesn't work. And that's okay. I'm a part-time professional mermaid because that's all that our area can support. But it's the best thing that I've ever done, and it's so fun.
That was a very good answer. I like that a lot.
Thank you.
So before we wrap things up with the interview here today, are there any socials or anything you would like to plug?
I'm Katfish Mermaid on literally everything. Facebook, Instagram, Threads, Blue Sky, Twitch. I have been streaming on Twitch. I'm an affiliate, but you can find me on anything at Katfish Mermaid. My link tree has links to mermaid fishing and the scuba school for SSI for free dive and mermaid and snorkel and scuba. Yeah, that's me.
All right, cool. Well, thank you very much for joining us here today.
Absolutely. Thank you for bringing me on. I appreciate it. I love the podcast.
Absolutely. You're listening to WPOD FM Mermaid Radio. We'll be right back after a word from our sponsors.
If you're not eating salted flakes, then your life is lame. Uncle Crisps are for chugheads. Our cereal isn't meant for spineless jellyfish. Milk is for pansies. I eat my bowls with octopus egg. This baby's loaded with enough sea salt to dehydrate a small Victorian child. I wish my mom loved me. What are you still doing listening to this commercial? Go buy a box now, or I will end you.
Most fitness tapes are made for merfolk, or people with just 2 legs. But my tape is made for people with 8. Hi, I'm Betty Delphani, and I'm here to introduce Cicalia Aerobics. the first ever fitness tape made exclusively for Cicalia. My 4-tape collection will help you out with several daily exercise routines that'll get your tentacles moving, from sucker stretches to curling and more. This collection also comes with a set of weights to help build tentacle strength and mass. And all this comes at the low price of just 50 shells. Call us now at 555-8888 and order your set today.
We have something very exciting to share with you now that we are back from our commercial break. We were able to get responses from multiple mermaid businesses, 4 of them in fact, for a quick little interview in regards to their businesses and what goes into them, their stories, and their tips.
All right, so first up we have Diaphan, who is a digital tail designer under the name Diaphan Tailsmith on Discord _Kyle Spencer _ and they say that they started their little business purely for the fun of it. They enjoy drawing tails for others and seeing how happy they are with that final result. They say, I strive to make my designs feel personal. If you ever decide to design tails of your own, I have a few tips for you to help out my mer friends. It helps to imagine the design in the water, how the fins would move, the colors being muted by the water or enhanced, and it makes a tail feel more realistic and helps to make a sound design. And they also say, don't take too many commissions at once, you will get stressed, and to set a limit for yourself. They do 3. I think that's really important advice for any aspiring artists, whether you're just making in general or tail designs. Don't overwhelm yourself.
Yes, absolutely. I love the whole mentality of just going into this just for the fun of it. You know, this wasn't. I feel like that's a mentality like anybody should have if they're gonna start any kind of business here in this community. Because if you're not loving what you're doing in this community, then like, why the heck are you even doing it?
Right.
And I think the tip about the colors possibly being muted or enhanced is awesome, because that's something that I really just came to that realization after buying a few tails, that there's been so many times where I've been like, I don't know, if I'm at a convention, I often buy from the mertailer, and there was one time in particular that he showed me the specific tail, and I was like, I don't know, and now it's my favorite, and it's because of the way it looks in the water.
Absolutely. And that's not all. Mermaid Celeste came to us with her business, Celestial Fantasy Entertainment LLC / Arcade Atlantis, and she ended up opening / running a business due to increased demand for professional mermaids, and she believes in accessibility for all merfolk of all shapes, sizes, and creeds. For her business tip, it would be to diversify ahead of the curve, which I think is some pretty... Not only is that a very noble business, but I think that is a pretty good tip as well.
I completely agree. As a plus-size mermaid, and on top of that, somebody who does struggle with invisible disability, that is affected kind of in and out of the water, it really is so nice to feel included and to see a business of mermaid professionals where they're not looking for that ideal Ariel Little Mermaid, the original, you know, when her waist was so tiny that it just was non-existent. It's really nice that we've come kind of full circle, and we have businesses such as Mermaid Celeste where everybody feels comfortable and there's a mermaid for everybody.
Absolutely.
And I do want to give kudos to Orca Matt as well, who owns the Mercantile Marketplace. And his business is a small, hyper-focused Etsy for mermaids that offers handmade merfolk crafts and accessories for the mermaiding hobby. They actually haven't quite launched yet, so this information is early access. Everything is still very much a work in progress, he states, but we're hoping to go live in the next few weeks. The site will be up at https://www.mer-cantile.com. But again, Orca Matt states that it is a work in progress and that they are hoping to bring in makers of all kinds for different crafts and accessories for mermaiding.
Seeing Orca Matt's journey making this thing, I remember when he brought it up, this was years ago when he brought it up at this point. It was when we opened the Mer Market on the Pod Discord server, and he said, oh my god, that reminds me of a business idea that I've had, the Mercantile.
I think
I remember
it is brilliant.
I remember he briefly mentioned it when we went to MerMagicCon as well. When we were eating dinner together, I believe he was talking about this business a little bit.
Yes, and it's just super exciting. I think that it's finally coming to light. It's been an idea that's been going on for ages and ages. I cannot wait to see it come to fruition.
Yeah, I'm so excited to just see. I remember his last business venture, it's lost me what the name was, but where he had siren pearls selling tails on it, and I loved those tail designs, and I know a couple people who ended up buying those tail designs, and they seemed like really good quality tails. So I'm excited to see what Matt cooks up now. Alright, and our last submission is from Sebastiel. They run the small Etsy shop Bassi Trinkets, that's BASSI Trinkets, and they sell resin accessories and trinkets that can be worn by anyone from MERS to cosplayers to everyday people. They say, my tip is do not give up. It may be slow going at first, but these things take time. And I think that's places like Sebastio were kind of what I was referring to when I was like, accessory making is so accessible to get into because you can make them for MERS and, as Sebastio says, cosplayers, everyday people. Everyone wears jewelry, so...
Absolutely.
I think staying patient is such a key factor when it comes to running a bit, because you're not really going to get any sort of business right away. It's all about, as we were talking about in the interview, it's all about getting your name out there. It's all about trying to reel in the big fish, so to speak, and just going in there with that sort of patience, that sort of iron will, I think is incredibly important, because you are gonna come across a bunch of shortcomings. You are probably gonna run out of money at some point. You probably are gonna have slow months where there isn't a lot of business, but if you really are dedicated to it, then I think you should stick to whatever it is you're doing in this field.
Absolutely. For sure. And we live in a day and age where, because of social media, you see these businesses that seem to just pop off overnight and everybody has so much success overnight. But I think that just one business like this stating, hey, it gets slow sometimes, don't give up, it happens to everybody. It's such an important thing because social media can put so much pressure on you and you feel like you're failing without realizing that they're not going to post that they're failing online a lot of the time. Most people want to share good news. So I always appreciate the transparency of it gets slow, don't give up. I think that it just gains so much respect from me.
Absolutely.
All right, now it's time for Community Corner. As always, we want to highlight the things that are going on in the community, and if you have anything that you want us to mention next month, shoot us a DM on either our Discord server or on Blue Sky at the Mermaid Podcast, or TikTok at the Mermaid Podcast. Tell us what is going on in the mermaid community, because we are 3 people and we can't get it all. But something huge did happen as of 4 days ago at the time of recording. Oscoda, Michigan, broke the largest gathering of people dressed as mer people, the Guinness World Record for that. I think it was formerly 400 something. It was over 450, I think. They broke it at 500 people. 500 people in tails.
Good for them. I'm so proud.
This was at the Pirates and Mermaids Festival, and it was broken by the Oscoda Citizens for Clean Water in Oscoda, Michigan, USA on the 1st of August, 2025. And I think that's pretty cool.
That's amazing.
That is quite amazing. So, in terms of things going on in the Discord, we have our usual outings. On Mondays, we have Chico's art streams, and on Fridays, we have my game streams. But, as of a month ago, we actually started doing clubs now. So, as of right now, we only have 3 clubs. We have the book club, which you run, Ash.
I did.
There's the art club that's being run by Chico. That one's actually gotten really popular. And then there's the gaming club, which is run by me. And every other Friday, we host game nights on there.
It has
I put
been
up
so
a vote
much
for-
fun.
Oh, yeah. I put up a vote for what games we should play that week. And so far, the game community nights have been very successful and very fun. And as of recording this, we're about to have another one. So I'm really looking forward to see what game we pick this week and just how it all turns out.
Yeah, and the book club just finished up The Lovely Deep by Michelle Pennington. So that one was a really good book. We have been picking out a huge list of mermaid-related books, and we're hoping to eat through a bunch of them in the coming year. So I'm very excited to start our next book. I think we're going to start with the Water Fire Saga.
I'm looking forward to that one.
Yeah.
I read a bit of
Exciting.
that. I read a bit of that at the library. I know the library, like, not far from my house has a copy, so I might actually
Join
there to-
us.
I'll pop in there to read a couple chapters with you guys.
Yes, book club people, do not forget on your local libraries. Don't
Yes.
sleep on them. Even if they
PSA.
don't have the book, they will order it for you.
Our artist, Baptist Star 2004, who did our cover art for this episode. Baptist Star is a digital artist that specializes in bringing merfolk, a variety of monster boys and girls, to life on their canvas for a variety of commissioners. So you can check them out on Blue Sky. That's Baptist Star 2004.
Thanks for joining us on this month's episode of the Mermaid Podcast.
Tune in next month to get your dose of everything mer media, TV shows, movies, and more.
As always, don't forget to get on your shell phones and follow us on TikTok and Blue Sky at The Mermaid Podcast and join our wonderful Discord community. Happy splashing! We'd like to thank our coffee donors that have made this month's episode possible: Ariadne, Isla, and Elizabeth.
If you enjoyed this month's episode and want to hear more from us, consider donating to our coffee page, linked in the description. Every amount counts and helps pay for our recording software and maintenance fees. Without our coffee donors, we couldn't do what we do. So from the bottom of our hearts, thank you.
This has been the Mermaid Podcast here on WPOD FM Mermaid Radio. I'm Gary Guppy, and we hope to catch you all next time.